It was love at first sight. When the train stopped, the train station buzzed with the familiar chaos of a late Friday afternoon. Commuters hurried by with coffee in hand, phones pressed to ears, or eyes glued to departure boards. Among them stood Claire, a book editor from Brooklyn with a soft spot for stories she could never quite find in her own life. Her scarf was wrapped a little too loosely, her suitcase scuffed from too many trips, and her heart tucked away behind years of just misses and almosts. She was on her way to Boston for a publishing conference. She hated networking, hated the small talk and business cards, but she loved train rides, the rhythm of the tracks, the stolen glances between strangers, the way you could be entirely anonymous yet connected, all moving forward together. As she stepped onto the platform, her eyes caught a figure in the crowd. He was tall, with unruly dark hair and a blue coat that made his eyes, even from a distance, unmistakable. He wasn't classically handsome. His features were a bit off-center, his smile slightly crooked. But there was something about him that made the station noise fall away for a second. And then he looked at her, just a glance, no longer than the time it takes a train to whistle in the distance. But in that single second, Claire felt as though her body remembered something her mind hadn't yet grasped, like she had known him once in a life she couldn't remember, or a dream she'd forgotten just before waking. He seemed to hesitate, just a beat, like the wind might carry him toward her if he let it. But the crowd surged, and then he was gone. Claire boarded her train with a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with the caffeine she'd had that morning. She settled by the window, trying to push the moment from her mind. "You're being dramatic," she told herself. "He probably didn't even see you." The train pulled away, and the city began to blur. 10 minutes in, she opened her laptop, tried to focus on a manuscript, a love story, ironically, but her eyes kept returning to the platform in her memory, to the way he looked at her, like he'd been surprised by something wonderful. 30 minutes later, her heart nearly stopped when the seat beside her filled. "Is this taken?" a warm voice asked. She turned, it was him. His eyes lit up in recognition. Not the polite flicker of someone who might have seen you in passing, but a spark that mirrored her own. "I saw you at the station," he said, smiling nervously, adjusting his coat. "I don't usually do things like this, but I was about to get on another train, and then I didn't." Claire blinked. "You changed trains?" "I thought if I let the moment go, I'd regret it for the rest of my life." She laughed softly, her heart racing now. "Well, that's dramatic." "I'm a playwright," he said with a grin. "We're all dramatics." They introduced themselves. His name was Julian. He lived in Manhattan, but spent most weekends upstate writing. He hated networking events, too, loved the sound of old typewriters, and preferred handwritten letters to emails. The conversation spilled out like a floodgate had opened. There were no awkward silences, only the hush of understanding, the joy of recognition. It felt to both of them not like they were meeting, but remembering. Hours passed in what felt like minutes. They exchanged stories, dreams, favorite quotes, childhood fears. Somewhere between New Haven and Providence, their hands brushed and neither pulled away. By the time the train rolled into Boston, the station looked different. The cold was still biting, the crowds just as dense, but everything felt warmer. As they stood outside, uncertain what came next, Claire reached for his hand. "I don't know what this is," she said, breath fogging between them. "But I don't want it to end at the station." Julian smiled. "Then let's see where this track goes." It was easy, it was strange. It was everything Claire thought only happened in fiction. And months later, when they told their friends how they met, they would both say the same thing. It was love at first sight. "I never believed in it until I saw her." Until the train stopped and everything began.